to another edition of the College Sports Forum here on YouTube. Wherever you're listening, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or wherever you happen to find yourself listening, I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're enjoying yourself. We are in beautiful Knoxville, Tennessee right now. It is currently a little bit past 8 o'clock, a little late tonight, a little late recording session for you guys. Wanted to get you all a video. It's been a little while since I've put out any kind of videos, but hoping to get back into the flow of things. College football season's quickly approaching. We're about middle August right now, so a lot of people doing their preseason polls, their Heisman polls, their college football playoff stuff. Today we are going to get you some college football sleepers that I think can either make a run at their conference or maybe possibly a run at the college football playoff. This is not just a sleeper playoff video. I got 4 teams that I think can either play for, win their conference, or make the playoff this year for the upcoming 2026 college football season. We've had a lot of talk about playoff expansion over the last several months, actually. Playoff expansion's kind of been dormant for about a month, a few weeks now, but playoff expansion is kind of coming back into it's reared its ugly head again. We're talking about it a little bit more now, unfortunately, but we got a 12 team this year. We got 12 teams making the playoff this year, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I got you 4 teams that I think can, like I said, either make their conference title game, win their conference title game, or make the college football playoff. And if you haven't noticed, we're in a little bit of different setup today. The people at Fox Sports Knoxville were nice enough to allow me to use their setup going forward. This is where I am at Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. overtime. Me and Garrett Armbrust host and co-host that show. So download the free Fan Run Radio app and listen to it there. Or if you're here in Knoxville on the local dial, 105.7 FM is where you get that. We also got YouTube and Twitter and all those type of things. It's going to be Fan Run or Fox Sports Knoxville for all those. So go like and follow. Check me out over there. We're live 12 hours a day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if you got a phone and an internet connection, go listen to those. Go subscribe, but subscribe to me first. Subscribe to the College Sports Forum on YouTube, and then go check everything out on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm on Twitter and whatever, X, if you want to call it X as well, and then Instagram too. So without further ado, let's get into our college football sleepers. Our first team today is going to be Houston. This is something that we actually just got done talking about on the show earlier. Houston in the Big 12. I think Houston is a real contender in the Big 12 this year, especially Texas Tech. Everybody knows Brendan Sorsby not going to be playing for the Red Raiders this season. Really opens up the Big 12 a lot. I still think Texas Tech is a really good team. I still think Texas Tech is probably the headliner in that conference. I think they're a fringe playoff team. I think they're about a top, like a 10 to 12 team without Sorsby. Still a really good team, still a really good defense, still got really good pieces, but they got to watch out for Houston. Quarterback Connor Wigman, transferred from Texas A&M. Last season, he threw for 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Obviously, it's not a stat line that's going to blow anybody away, but he's a solid SEC quarterback with solid SEC experience. Say what you want about him at Texas A&M. Everybody has. He's a really, really solid quarterback. I think they have one of the best receivers in the country in Amari Thomas. 67 receptions last year, almost 1,000 receiving yards, right at 966 receiving yards, and 12 touchdowns. He, to me, is the best wide receiver in the Big 12, one of the best wide receivers in the country. They also got Mekhi Hughes out of the backfield of the running back position. They got other pieces. They got Trent Walker. They got Kobe Young. I think this is a really good team. Say what you want about their defense last year. Their defense, a little questionable. They gave up right around 360, 370 yards per game. Not the greatest on paper, but they play a relatively not easy schedule, but they play a workable schedule. They play Texas Tech in that third game of the season. That's going to be it's going to be a national game. Everybody's going to have their eyes on that. That's whoever wins that game, really going to set themselves up for success in the Big 12. Whoever wins that is in my opinion, not going to be a cakewalk to the end of the season for the Big 12 title game, but whoever wins that's going to firmly put themselves in the driver's seat. But they start out the season, they open with Oregon State, they open with Southern before they go into that Texas Tech game. To me, Oregon State is a shell of what they used to be. Oregon State's not a team that I think is really going to give them much trouble, neither is Southern, in my opinion. And then obviously they have that Texas Tech game. Right after that Texas Tech game, they're going to go to Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, a respectable G5 team. Again, I don't think they're really going to have much to put up against Houston. Then they come back home, they play UCF. Again, this is a good team in the Big 12, but a team that Houston should be able to handle. They go to Kansas State. We'll talk about Kansas State later. Kansas State's another team I have on this list. That's going to be a big game. Not a lot of people are looking at that Kansas State game. Avery Johnson, very seasoned veteran quarterback coming back to play for the Wildcats. That's going to be a very interesting game to watch for me. Oklahoma State the next week is also going to be another interesting game to watch for me. They get Oklahoma State at home. Oklahoma State basically the North Texas Cowboys this year. It's basically the same thing that Matt Campbell did over at Penn State, but they bring in a new head coach. They bring in North Texas's head coach. He basically brings over his entire team with him. Oklahoma State going to be a very improved team. I don't know how good they're going to be, though. They're going to be much improved, though. I think if they win 5 or 6 games, that's a good improvement from last season. Oklahoma State was one of the worst teams in Division I football last year. So I think, again, that's going to be a game that they can win at home. Then they go to Utah. This is another tough game they got on their schedule. This is probably the toughest game that they have left on their schedule. Obviously, a Utah team without Kyle Whittingham. This is going to be a different Utah team look. It's going to be first-year head coach Utah team, but still a team that I think can make some noise, especially on the road. At Utah, it's going to be a tough environment to play in. Then they come back home. They play Cincinnati. Again, everybody knows Cincinnati. They made the college football playoff not too long ago. Still, I think this is a team that they should beat. Then they go to Colorado. Everybody knows about Colorado. Colorado is a very questionable team this year. Colorado is a team that could surprise a lot of people. They could win 5 games. Colorado, it's really hit or miss with Colorado. I have another video talking about Colorado later on in the week. And then they go to West Virginia. Tough travel game. That's kind of a long distance. I think they should be able to get the win against West Virginia. Kind of developing a little bit of a rivalry with West Virginia. A couple years ago, they beat West Virginia at home on a little bit of a miracle type game, a little Hail Mary type game. So maybe developing a little mountain rivalry there with the Mountaineers. Then they finish off the season at home against Baylor. Like I said, very workable schedule. I see 2 big games on this schedule, maybe 3 if you want to include Utah, and all 3 of those are on the road. Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Utah are all 3 on the road, so they're going to get tested this year. But I really think that if this Houston team can maybe beat a Texas Tech or maybe beat a Kansas State or a Utah, I think they definitely can beat Kansas State or Utah. It's really going to be that Texas Tech game in Week 3. How are they going to perform against the Red Raiders, who have a very, very talented roster? It's going to be tough going into Texas Tech. The tortillas are going to be flying. That's going to be a fun environment, fun game to watch. They went 10-3 last year. A couple notable wins. They beat LSU, they beat Arizona State, and they beat Arizona. Say what you want about LSU. They beat them in a bowl game. Obviously, I'm as you guys know if you listen, I'm not somebody who really puts a ton of stock into bowl games. But say what you want, still an LSU team, still a respectable program, still got the win over them. Connor Wigman in that game threw for 230 yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, say what you want about LSU. That's a great stat line, and Houston's going to be a great team this year. Team number 2 is going to be the Louisville Cardinals. This is not a super hot take. My more hot takes are coming. But this Louisville team, for me, they got a transfer QB from Ohio State that played last year at Louisville. Lincoln Keyholes, he threw for 1,250 yards and 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Again, not the greatest stat line, not a ton of passing yards. He didn't light it up through the air, but he only threw 4 interceptions on the entire season. They got Isaac Brown. Isaac Brown, to me, is one of the better running backs in the country, in my opinion. They play Ole Miss Week 1 in Nashville, neutral site game. Nashville, Tennessee against Ole Miss. It's going to be a really, really interesting game. I think Ole Miss is going to be a really good team. I think Ole Miss has a really good shot to win to not win the SEC, but I think they have a really good shot to make the playoffs, make some noise in the SEC. A lot of people are counting Ole Miss out. Lane Kiffin say what you want about them, offensive coordinator. I think Pete Golding is going to be a great head coach. You saw what they did against Georgia in the playoff game last year. That's going to be a really interesting game to watch for me. If Louisville is able to go into Nashville and upset Ole Miss in that week 1, Louisville is going to be a really, really dangerous team come playoff time. I know, again, it's not going to do anything for them in the ACC, but looking at the rest of their schedule, they don't play Miami. That's the one big thing, is Miami is not on their ACC schedule this year. They play Villanova at home. They play SMU at home. They get Wake Forest at home. It's a 3-week homestand that they had. Then they go to NC State, and they come back home to play Florida State. Again, everybody knows about Florida State. Mike Norvell, if his buyout wasn't so high, he probably wouldn't be the head coach at Florida State right now. So I think they'll be able to get, up to this point, they probably only have one loss to Ole Miss. I'm not going to predict them beating Ole Miss because that would be insane. I think they're going to lose that game ultimately to Ole Miss. But then interesting game for me is they travel to Syracuse. Going to Syracuse is a lot different. Syracuse is a respectable team. I wouldn't say they're any kind of great powerhouse or anything, but Syracuse is a very respectable football program. They take a lot of pride in their football, so that's going to be a tough team to play. They get Stanford at home. That's important. They don't have to travel all the way out to California to play Stanford. They get Stanford coming into their own building. They go to Georgia Tech. In my opinion, outside of Ole Miss, this is the toughest game that they have on their schedule. Georgia Tech is a really, really good football team. I know myself. I cover sports radio here in Knoxville. We've talked a lot about Georgia Tech. Tennessee goes to Atlanta in week 3, or in week 2. That is. That's going to be really tough. That's a really tough Bobby Dodd Stadium in Atlanta. Those fans are crazy. They take a lot of pride in their football program. They've done a lot over the last couple of years with Haynes King as their quarterback. Again, Haynes King's not going to be their quarterback anymore. They got Alberto Mendoza coming in. That's Fernando's brother, obviously. They're going to be a really respectable team. And then, the week after that, they go to North Carolina. I'm dead in the water on North Carolina. I don't expect much of anything out of North Carolina this season. I don't think they're going to find themselves in a bowl game at the end of the year. Then they come home to play Pitt right before they go on the road to play Kentucky. I think if they go into that Kentucky game with 1 to 2 losses, I think you see this team in the college football playoff. I think a 10-2 Louisville plays for the ACC title game against Miami and possibly beats them. I'm not going to sit here and predict any kind of wins over Miami. Miami, to me, is one of the best teams in the country this year. But Louisville is a really, really good team that can make some noise. And if they go into that, if their only loss on their schedule is Ole Miss and they win out and they're 11-1 playing the ACC title game with a loss to Miami, and they're 11-2 after the ACC championship week, I think they 100% deserve one of those spots in the college football playoff. Next team is going to be Tennessee. Yes, a little bit of a homer here, as you would see. Knoxville's plastered all over behind me. Orange and black right behind me, as you can see. But I think this Tennessee team is really good. Obviously, everybody knows about the quarterback battle with Faison Brandon and George McIntyre. Who's going to win? Is it going to be the true freshman quarterback, or is it going to be the true sophomore that's been in the system a year and kind of maybe knows the offense a little bit better, maybe has a little bit more experience? I'm not buying the whole experience tab that people are putting on McIntyre, because I don't believe McIntyre got a ton of experience last year. As somebody who watched every second of every game of Tennessee football last year, McIntyre didn't play a whole lot. He was the third quarterback on the depth chart, and he didn't play a ton of snaps. Not to say that he's not a good quarterback. Obviously, practice is a little important. You get a lot of experience and a lot of reps in practice, especially when you got such a QB guy like Heupel, who's able to sit there and pour into you and turn you into what he wants you to be. But Faison's a killer, man. From everything we're hearing out of spring practice, TK Keys, a 5-star true freshman wide receiver for Tennessee, said Faison might just have a little bit more sizzle on that ball than McIntyre does. McIntyre maybe floats it a little bit too much. And that gets you killed in SEC play when you're playing the caliber of these defenses like an Alabama or a Georgia. Tennessee doesn't play Georgia this year, but if you're playing those types of defenses, like maybe a Texas, maybe some of those balls are picked off versus Faison's balls. So it's going to be interesting. But outside of the QB battle, everybody knows about that. Everybody's talked about that ad nauseum. You got, I've said this personally on our radio show. This is probably the best year for Tennessee to have any type of question marks at the quarterback position because you are so good on that offensive line. You are so good in that receiver room. You're returning a 1,000-yard rusher in Deshaun Bishop. You have a veteran tight end in Ethan Davis coming back to play in Knoxville again. I think this offensive line, personally, just looking at the offensive line, is one of the best units in the country. You return a 5-star from last year, a former 5-star with David Sanders. You return a Wendell Moe who made the on-3 third-team All-American list. And then you have two 800-plus yard receivers returning in a Mike Matthews and in a Braylon Staley. Those are two guys that are going to add and take an immense amount of pressure off of whoever the quarterback ends up being for Tennessee. And then that's not even to mention guys like a Deshaun Bishop. Tennessee is going to be able to run the ball, whoever they play against. This offense is largely and incorrectly touted as a air raid type of offense. This is not an air raid offense. This is a very run-first type of offense. Heupel is very predicated on getting that first down and getting to that first line to gain. And our offense kind of stalls if we're not able to do that. But what really is going to allow us to do that is the pressure that the offensive line can create up front and the holes Deshaun Bishop has to run through. If Deshaun Bishop can replicate the season he had last year, just over 5 yards a carry, I think Tennessee's in a really good position and puts whoever plays quarterback in a really good position. And we haven't even talked about the offseason hires that Tennessee's made in a Jim Knowles over from Penn State, in a Derek Owings coming over from Indiana. Both of those are national championship pedigreed assistant coaches coming in to coach for the Vols. Jim Knowles won a national championship with Ohio State in 24. They played at Tennessee and shut that Tennessee offense down. Say what you want about that offense in 24 with Nico. It wasn't very good, but Jim Knowles was able to shut that vertical passing attack down and able to keep the Vols to 14 points. And then looking over at the defensive side of the ball, you bring it over guys from Penn State. A lot of the gripes with Jim Knowles' defense is that it does take a couple years to implement. It does take some time to really get into gear and get going. But he's bringing over guys like an Amari Campbell, or the unfortunate situation happened with Chaz Coleman. We all know that there. We'll get into the defensive line here in a moment. But when you bring over a guy like Amari Campbell, who's going to wear the green dot for the Vols, he is the quarterback of that defense. He is going to be the guy communicating with the coaching staff on the sideline, being able to get those guys into a position and put them into the best chance to succeed. And then you bring over the other guys like a Quay Moss from Kansas State, and then you have guys returning like a Ty Redmond at the corner position. This Tennessee defense, and especially this Tennessee secondary, is going to be much, much improved. Long gone are the days of seeing Tennessee in the hundreds in terms of passing defense. I think Jim Knowles, this defense is going to take quick, and this defense is going to take a huge leap going into year 6 under Josh Heupel. My fourth team is going to be a little bit of a curveball and a little bit of a hot take, but I had to have one in here. It's going to be Kansas State, the Kansas State Wildcats. We talked about them just a couple minutes ago when we talked about who Houston's playing. I think this Kansas State team has a real shot to maybe play for a Big 12 title here. That's going to be a hot take. They're about 5th or 6th in the odds to win the Big 12, but I really like their quarterback play. You're returning a quarterback in Avery Johnson last year who threw for 2,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. You're returning a Dylan Edwards, a Jace Brown, a Jaron Tibbs. Like this Kansas State team on paper can. I'm not saying they will. There's a difference between can and will, but there's also a difference between can't and hasn't yet. You can say, oh, Kansas State's never going to do this. Oh, Kansas State's never going to do that. What you should be saying is Kansas State hasn't done this yet or hasn't done that yet. This schedule for Kansas State, in my opinion, is relatively workable. You open up the season with a Nicholls. You open up the season with a Washington State, which Washington State does not have that same Power 5 pedigree that they used to have. Think of Kansas State or Washington State kind of in the same realm that you would any other G5 team at this point. Washington State and Oregon State were really kind of thrown under the bus during this whole Pac-12 gutting that happened just a couple of years ago when the Big Ten came in. It's really kind of destroyed the pedigree of Washington State and Oregon State. Those are really respectable football programs that are not living up to the expectations and the levels that they used to have. And then they finish out that 3-week homestand with a Tulane at home, and then they travel to a Cincinnati. They play a Houston at home. I mentioned that earlier. That's going to be a really, really big test for Houston and Kansas State alike. That's going to be an equally big game for both teams. That's really a must-win game for both of these teams. That's the toughest game on the schedule for Kansas State here. Maybe I won't go as far as say that's a must-win for Kansas State, because if Kansas State drops that game to Houston, they play a relatively easy schedule. Outside of that, they play a Kansas at home. They go to Arizona State. They go to Colorado. They play an Oklahoma State at home. Then they travel to a TCU. They get an Arizona State at home. Then they travel to Iowa State. Again, Iowa State's going to be without Matt Campbell. He went over to Penn State, the Nittany Lions, in the offseason. This is a relatively workable schedule. Do I have Kansas State as one of my sleepers for the Big 12 because they are such a good team? No, I don't. I don't think this Kansas State team is talent level on par with a Texas Tech or a Houston, but I do believe that this team has a very good shot to get to that Big 12 title game just based off this schedule alone, and the talent level that they have is good enough. I don't think Kansas State's going to go win a national title. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to do that. But what they are going to do is they're going to make noise in the Big 12, and they're going to be able to compete in the Big 12. And that kind of wraps it up for today. That's kind of my 4 teams. Stay tuned on the channel. We are going to get a lot more content out to you. We're really coming up on this football season. Week 0 is approaching rapidly. It's middle of August right now, so we just a couple more weeks until football is finally back. We get the NFL preseason back in just a couple days. It's really going to get amped up and really ramped up going here in just a couple of days. Like I said, download the free Fan Run Radio app. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, follow me on any place that you guys consume your media. It's free. I really appreciate it. It doesn't sign you up. You don't get emails. It don't pay for anything. It's all free. So, like I said, we're going to have a lot more content coming out to you this week. A lot of TikTok content, a lot of Instagram content. We're really approaching the season. Fall camp's getting ramped up for a lot of these teams. It's going to be really, really fast-paced. Coming into this kind of beginning week 0 of the season. Like I said, it's fastly approaching. It was a long summer. It was a long off season. But it's coming quickly. We're probably going to get some quarterback battle videos out to you. That's something that we've been talking about here a lot lately. So we're probably going to get some quarterback battles, some fall camp intel out for you guys later this week. So yeah, just stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.